This is Lived In, the interior design podcast for ordinary people living in ordinary homes. This season is called Voice Notes, an audio newsletter covering art, real estate, architecture, and one good piece of interior design advice. Let's get into it. Welcome to Season 5, Episode 4, Can You Mix Metals? I will go ahead and jump straight into it and talk about this week's art. It's a beautiful crackle glass vessel designed by Åsa Ljungnelius. And she is a Swedish glass artist who works a lot with Kosta Boda. Don't know if you're familiar with them. I will make sure that the link for that is in the show notes. But she's an artist born in 1975, based in Sweden, and actually now lectures at the University of Arts, Crafts and Design in Sweden. And I like this piece, I think, just because it's colourful. And really this week I was looking for art that you can touch. I think because I'm a very practical person, I struggle sometimes to incorporate and implement art in my home. And I say that because I think sometimes it feels like it's not serving a practical purpose. And there are arguments for and against that. One of the arguments against that is that actually it is serving a purpose. It's sparking joy. It's something that my eye looks upon and is pleased by. And so I think that's cool, but I love the idea of art that you can kind of grab onto and experience with an additional sense beyond sight. So this is an absolutely gorgeous piece, oranges and blues, and you cannot purchase it. It's out of stock, but go ahead and take a look at it, get inspired, explore their website, and you'll see some more things that you can kind of touch and experience, which is very cool. Guys, the real estate this week is all just centered upon autumn. If you live in Eastern North Carolina, like I do, you will know that autumn hasn't fully arrived yet. I mean, the leaves are changing and they are shedding and the temperatures have somewhat dropped, but we had an 80-degree day the other day. And so that doesn't really feel 100% like autumn, but we have a very short autumnal window before it's just cold and dark and we set our sights on Christmas. So I wanted to capitalize on autumn, my favorite season, and just share with you 3 listings in this kind of side of the state of North Carolina, and ones where the outdoors is just so beautiful that you know if you're there in the autumn, it's a gorgeous, stunning scene. So the first one of these is 301 Nature's Way, or 301 Nature's Way. It's 5 acres, treetop living because the house is raised, and there's a pond that you could sail paper sailboats across, and it would be absolutely gorgeous any time of year. I love this one. It's based in Ivanhoe, which is, I mean, it's kind of a nondescript. I think if you know it, you know it, and if you don't, you don't. A lot of people know Elizabethtown or kind of other areas like that in North Carolina, and it's close by. It's kind of between Elizabethtown and Wilmington. And the house is lovely. It's dark blue, but really it's not about the house. It's about what's outside of the house. So that's number 1. Number 2 is 415 Bay Bush Road. And this one has a wraparound porch that you could stuff with pumpkins. And it's on 1.3 acres, surrounded by mature trees. I cannot think of anything more beautiful or moving to do on this property than sit outside and just watch the seasons change. Life doesn't get better than that. The last property, 103 Mullington Lane. I like this one. It's kind of strange. It's a brick property. It's in Wilmington, and really it's designed for all year round enjoyment. It has a pool, has a beautiful back deck, pergola, and a screened porch. And again, it's surrounded by beautiful trees. You wouldn't know that you're in a residential area. It just is it just feels like you're kind of in the middle of nature and nature is around you. So those are the 3 properties this week in the newsletter. Go ahead and check those out. The link is in the show notes. Once a week, I share an image from my private Pinterest board that highlights great design. This section of the newsletter is called Room Study, and this is still a room study, but we're focusing on a specific question that I see a lot and a lot of interior designers get, which is, can I mix metals? And the answer, by the way, is yes. And one of the people I would say is a master at mixing metals is Jean Stoffer of Jean Stoffer Design. She's based in Michigan. And so I picked a kitchen that she designed to talk about. You can find the image in the newsletter, which is linked in the show notes. So here's how she does it. And here's how you can do it. Number 1, isolate one metal in one spot. So if you are looking at the image, she uses quite a few different metals. She has polished nickel, she has oil rubbed bronze, she has brass. And despite the fact that she's using all of these, use of each metal is very intentional. It's not haphazard. It's not like she kind of picked those 3 metals and then threw them wherever they landed in the kitchen. If you actually look at the kitchen island, only the polished nickel knobs are used on the kitchen island. She keeps all the same knobs and pulls in the same area, in the same metal and finishes, which I'll talk about a bit more in point number 3. Second way to do it is to make sure that your metals are the same. This is about finish. So if you are using brass, you need to make sure that all of the brass hardware is from the same collection in the same finish. You don't want one brass to be more yellow and another to be more brown, for example. You can mix finishes of metals in the space, but you have to treat these like their own distinct metals. So if the cabinet knobs and pulls are dark aged brass and the lights above the window are simply aged brass, that's fine because there's enough space, there's enough distinction between these 2 metals, literally in the physical space, that it's clear that it has been done purposefully. And just a tip, I don't know if you've heard of Armac Martin. They make lovely doorknobs and other things like that, but they actually have on their website a page with finishes. I'll link that in the show notes so that you can see different metals and their different finishes and understand how they're different. Last point number 3, aim to mix metals vertically rather than horizontally. This is not a hard and fast rule, but it is a strong recommendation. And I say that because in a bathroom, for example, the sconces and the mirror are aligned horizontally, and they don't need to be the same metal because you can break it up based on the mirror being one color and the sconces either side being a different one, for example. Or in a living room, the mirror and the ceiling light don't need to be the same metal either. They can be different. So I say it's a strong recommendation for specific types of spaces. But if you look at the image that we're looking at that window wall, the lights above the window are brass. The faucets at the sink are polished nickel, so that's right below the window, or in front of the window, if you will. And then the cabinet hardware directly under the sink is oil rubbed bronze. And even though the cabinets on either side of the sink have aged brass hardware, their placement in separate kind of visual columns means that the metals still feel separated from one another. So you essentially want to be able to look down a wall, and if you have one metal up top, that's fine. You might have another one in the middle and another one at the bottom. Mixing vertically is easier on the eyes than horizontally. And again, you want to make sure that you're isolating one metal, one finish in one spot. So think back to that island. Make sure you look at this image actually for reference so you can see all the metals yourself. But on that island, it's all the same metal, and that's very intentional. You don't want mixed knobs on an island. All right, it's time for our final segment of the episode, One Good Thing. And today we are talking about unusual ways to use natural light. I posted on stories last week about using light wells in bathrooms, and it got me thinking about creative use of light in our homes. Traditional architecture, or I would say the majority of homes being built today, rely on windows and maybe, very rarely, the occasional skylight, but I don't see a lot of residential builders doing that. Contemporary architecture specifically when working with an architect. That kind of architecture will very often bring light into unusual spaces or bring it into a space in a surprising way. So, if you are struggling to bring natural light into dark spaces, don't be afraid to think outside of the box. Think about using interior atriums, using light wells, or using skylights in lieu of windows or glass pane doors. And don't forget that if you can't do it for real, you can mimic it with clever lighting solutions. The reference image for the unusual ways to use natural light is actually a home. It's actually the home of the architect, Joss Tan, designed by himself. He is the founder of Tan Architecture, and the home is in Melbourne. And the image, if you're not able to look, is a bathtub. And above the bathtub, directly above it, is a light well. So you can't actually see the window, but you get the light coming in. And it means the space is just bathed in sunlight, which is such a lovely way to take a shower. I think if I was a morning showerer, I'm an evening showerer, I don't know about you, but I think if I was a morning showerer, a bath that has a light well over it would be absolute heaven. Well, friends, that's it for this week. I will see you again next week. I'd love to hear how you guys are experiencing this format, what it feels like for you, if you enjoy it, if you prefer the other format, if you would like a kind of hybrid of the two. I'm really enjoying it because I do the newsletter, but there are always additional things I'm thinking about that I don't quite manage to put in there. So I think both mediums have their pros and cons. On the plus side of the newsletter, you can actually see the images. On the plus side of the podcast, you hear a bit more backstory. But let me know how you're experiencing, how you're enjoying the new format, and I will see you again next week for our next episode. Have a good week.